you have the opportunity to impact your client's life in all aspects.
The updated weight loss specialization will help trainers in many ways expand their career.
For the first time, we talk about the psychosocial aspects, the sociocultural.
You're going to be able to truly understand what your clients are going through when they have a specific weight loss journey.
All new information, new trends.
We were able to develop what we called personas.
To provide examples of what you might experience as a fitness professional when you encounter a client.
And build confidence as the months go by.
I'll feel more comfortable in my skin.
My self-confidence will improve.
Empathy is something that runs through the weight loss specialization.
It's about guiding people.
Regarding nutrition, regarding exercise.
I can go to bed at night knowing that I've done something good for the world.
It's great content and a blueprint for how to get results with your clients.
We put together a complete solution to help you, the professional, become the next weight loss specialist.
I'm Brad Dieter.
Ken Miller.
Casey DeYoung.
Wendy Batts.
Nolan Highland.
Mike Fanagrossi.
Welcome to NASM's Weight Loss Specialization course.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Random Fit. It's me, Ken Miller, and I am joined with Miss Wendy Batts. Miss Wendy, how are you today?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm awesome. I'm always awesome when I have you and our guests on the line. Yeah, I'm really excited because this is our first guests that we have on the show. So this is groundbreaking stuff for us. So I'm really excited.
Me too. And I love the topic because, again, it's something that I've learned more and more about in the last few months, and I could not be more excited about this podcast for sure.
Yeah. I mean, usually, when we do these podcasts, it's one of those things where you and I were doing the research, we're going online, we're reading books, we're going in the way back machine and kind of seeing what's led us to this point where we talk about the different topics that we have a chance to talk about. But this topic today, which we're going to talk about NuCalm, and we're talking about the founders and those that are in charge of that company and what it does. And I'll tell you what's really exciting to me, Wendy, about this is the fact that I did it. I tried it. I went in there blind. But the fact that we have Aaron Drogoszewski, who and Jim Poole that's going to be with us. But between Aaron and our buddy Mr. Rick Ritchie, because they had that recover in New York, and that's when I had the chance to first dive into it and experience that for myself. And I tell you, I felt amazing. So we have on the screen now, we have Mr. Aaron Drogoszewski. How's it going?
Thank you for having me. I'm great. How are you guys?
Awesome. We're just glad to have you guys here. And we have Mr. Jim Poole. Jim, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And we're glad to have you both. And I'll just share a quick story about how I first experienced NuCalm, the product that we're going to talk about today. I was in New York City after a 3-day trip in Chicago. And sorry, Wendy, if you have to hear the story again, but I had done a 3-day trip in Chicago. And like most travelers, it's one of those things. I'm changing time zones. I slept in a hotel for 3 evenings, and in hotels, I just do not sleep well, as a lot of travelers do. And then I ended that Chicago trip with a trip to New York, and I had an evening or an afternoon to myself, to where I had to check out your facility, Aaron. And since I had that time, I got in there, and the first thing I did was the NuCalm. I had my eyes shut, and you have those weighted blankets that you put on there, and it's just, you put it on, and I'll share my experience while I had the eyes, the blinds on and the blanket on, and I was feeling warm and cozy, and my mind is just kind of racing a little bit, and I'm trying to calm it down. It's like, how am I going to get this relaxing feeling that they keep talking about if I can't shut my mind down? But the next thing I knew, I forget his name, so sorry about that. The guy who set me up, he just taps me on the shoulder and he says, your 30 minutes are up. I'm like, are you kidding me? It felt like I was there for about 5 minutes, and the next thing I know, I'm getting that nudge on the shoulder saying, you were out. He goes, check out the clock. You were out for 30. And I had, and it just was totally just mind-boggling, the fact that I was in there for that amount of time when it seemed like it was this amount of time. But the whole experience at your facility, I followed it up with the infrared sauna, some light stretching, and I felt like $1 million after you take that whole experience. But and that's one of those things where it's like I'm so looking forward to today, because now you can explain to me what happened to me, to where it felt like I just got off the plane and I just got into town, right? I felt refreshed, and and I executed the next 2 days like I was only gone for 2 days versus being gone for 3 days on top of that. So that's why I'm excited for this. But I think our listeners and viewers want to know, okay, who is it that's going to be talking to us today? So Aaron, I'll let you do the intro, because I looked at your background and we worked together for some years. So just tell us a quick ditty about yourself and how you got involved with this product that we're going to talk about today.
Sure. So first, again, thanks for having both of us. I've been a fitness professional since 1997. And back then, the fitness game was a little different, a lot different than it is now. I say that most of the time people then went to the gym for one of two reasons. To lose weight or to put on muscle, and that was it. There really wasn't corrective exercise or performance enhancement as we know it now. And I didn't really resonate with that. So I really just gravitated towards my martial arts. So I've been doing martial arts since I was 11, karate, Golden Gloves, boxing, Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu. And I really just focused on that until I sustained an overuse injury in my shoulder getting ready for a Golden Gloves fight. And then I had a decision to make: either learn to fix it, because I was 24 and I knew it wasn't anything quote unquote serious. And then I learned SMR and static stretching and the whole OPT model, and I fell in love. And when I got my life given back to me, that my life as it pertains to what I'm passionate about, it just changed the game for me. And then I really focused on that for years and years. I went back, got my LMT so I could get a little bit deeper when I was doing the corrective work. And then one day, as Rick and I were working together, Rick Ritchie, we had done a lot of different programs together. And he said to me, do you want to open a recovery studio? And I didn't even bat a lash. I said, of course I do. And we were looking for spots the next day. No business plan, nothing. That's just the way I operate. And it took me all of 45 minutes at most after he said that to realize, you mean an athletic recovery studio exclusively? And that's not really what I have in mind, because I'm a father, I'm a budding entrepreneur, as a fitness professional. We all know the grinds of and it's one of the best professions on the face of the earth, but it's long hours. You need to be present. And I realized that even if my body feels fine, my performance might suffer if I'm not finding balance for everything. And then we started putting some things together, and the rest is history.
Awesome. Thank you, Aaron. And Mr. Poole, how about you? You've got quite an extensive background. I mean, you're obviously a businessman, but what is it that you do for Solace Lifesciences, and how does NuCalm fit into that?
Solace Lifesciences is a neuroscience company. We develop, commercialize neuroscience platform technologies. I'm chairman of the board, president, and CEO. Kind of do a little bit of everything, from accounting to raising money to lecturing all over the world. My background is I was raised by two psychotherapists. I have an MBA from Babson in International Marketing and Business, but I also was a psychotherapist in the State Mental Health Institutions of Massachusetts. I have a medical background, business background, and have been a part of a lot of mergers and acquisitions for private equity Wall Street banks. Been a part of a lot of enterprises, doing a lot of takeovers and running companies post-acquisition in all types of fields, from dentistry to intellectual property issues with technology, pharmaceutical, biotech, financial services, IT. And then I took over this company on October 26, 2009. So I think the coolest thing about this job and what we do is 11 years ago, no one understood anything we were talking about. They certainly, recovery was not in the zeitgeist.
Right.
Sleep wasn't really that important. It was more like a badge of honor was how less you slept, right? And how many miles you traveled. Well, I think in the last decade, people have woken up to the fact that that's really a path to disease and death. So the coolest aspect of what I do, I get to work with the FBI, Department of Defense, Border Patrol, BORTAC, BORSTAR, Navy SEALs, Green Beret sniper outfits, veterans. I get to work with 49 professional sports teams, UFC, USTA, golf. I get to work with people that suffer stage 4 cancer, people with multiple sclerosis, people with addiction, comorbid with trauma. I get to work with humans, from Tony Robbins to monks. And the coolest thing about this tech is nobody is immune or impregnable to stress. And it doesn't matter who you are.
Absolutely.
When this tech is relaxing monks, you know you're onto something really powerful on one hand, and wow, our culture's messed up if monks are using NuCalm to de-stress. Okay, just saying.
I did not know that. I did not know that, but I'm sure we'll dig deeper into who's using it. So, so Aaron, can you tell us exactly what is NuCalm? I mean, for Jim, thank you for that introduction. I could have done very little justice to the backgrounds that you guys both have, and you've definitely accumulated over the years. But what is NuCalm, and how does it work?
Yeah, so I'll give the basic overview. I can get a little bit deeper, but as we said before we started recording, I will not do it as much service as Jim will. So the succinct elevator pitch is it's the world's only patented technology to minimize stress without pharmaceuticals or drugs. Now, when we say stress, I think that there's still a little bit of a hiccup when people hear that word. There's a shame aspect. It's similar to what Jim mentioned with the sleep, in that people don't want to admit that they're stressed. However, we also need to understand that stress isn't a feeling. Stress is a physiological response. So when we talk about the ability to balance stress, what we're really talking about is the ability to balance the autonomic nervous system. So the fight or flight or rest and digest spectrum. We as a society are sympathetic or fight or flight dominant all the time. And if we peel the layers back even further, exercise is stress as well. So, we're on an NASM podcast, and as far as the relevance, number one, I don't know anyone who's not stressed. But then if we're talking about recreating balance for outcomes, for enjoyment, for just quality of life, a lot of exercise will also start to shift you into that sympathetic or fight or flight dominant state. So NuCalm is a technology. It's now a 3-component system consisting of a patch that goes on your wrist that, again, Jim will expand on, but it's essentially using electromagnetic charge to upregulate your GABA, or your inhibitory neurotransmitter. So essentially to take the adrenaline away, or the physical tension. And then what you're listening to is the world's most, I hesitate to say, a binaural beat. Technically it is, but it really is not. Most binaural beats are linear, meaning whatever the difference is in one ear versus the other, it just remains consistent. NuCalm is the only nonlinear oscillating binaural beat, meaning it constantly changes frequency, pitch, and tone to essentially trick your brain. And then an eye mask. So eye mask, you can't relax with light permeating through your eyes because that's what stimulates either the serotonin or melatonin production in the pineal gland. So it's a fully all-encompassing, holistic approach, whereas there are a lot of apps on the market. There are a lot of ways to rest, but there is a stark contrast between resting and recovering. So if we're looking at recovering and really maximizing your return on investment, there really is no other option than NuCalm, at least not for me, because I'm a very busy person. So if if I make 30 to 40 minutes to create balance, I don't want to flip a coin that I'm going to get what I was looking for. And I'm not looking to just rest. I want to optimize my performance, which means I need to recover and create balance.
Awesome. Well, Aaron, I have a question for you based on that before we start going even deeper. But, how did, when you did your introduction, you said that when Rick was like, let's do this recovery center, and you said, I'm all in. How did you actually hear about NuCalm in order to really put it into your facility and because I had never really heard anything about it until I listened to you and Rick talk about it. And I couldn't wait to dive in to see if it could actually relieve my stress, which, by the way, it did. It was like the best sleep I think I've ever had. And in 30 minutes actually feels like I took a 2 to 3 hour nap, which is something that I need because I don't have 2 or 3 hours to take a nap. And so how did you hear about it and how did you implement it? And then were you kind of thinking it was going to be used mainly towards athletes, or did you think everybody should use it? And like, how did you sell it and promote it?
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as how I came across NuCalm, it was pure kismet. I've asked Jim this a few times. It was years ago. I listened to a lot of podcasts, and I don't remember if it was a commercial on a podcast or just endorsed by one of the people I listened to. But I had heard all the elevator pitches: 2 to 3 hours of sleep in 30 minutes, crushes stress without pharmaceuticals, maximizes your performance. And I remember thinking, I need this in my life now. I had just moved to Westchester, which means I went from the overhead of an apartment rental to a mortgage and car payments, and I'm traveling into the city. And I just remember thinking, I need this. And I called, and before I called, because I heard that Tony Robbins is a huge fan of NuCalm. And one of my friends happens to be childhood friends with his full-time, I think it's his massage or his LMT. And I asked him, will you ask your buddy if Tony really likes this or if he's just paid to say that? And I was hoping that he'd say that he didn't, because I found out how much it was at the time. And I remember thinking, at the very least, my wife will divorce me, if not kill me, if I buy this right now. So if he says that it doesn't work, then I'll be a slightly happier man. But he said, oh, no, Tony loves it. So then I was like, I got to figure something out then. But as far as how I actually got my hands on it, I have a client who money is not a concern of his. So I told him all about it. And I said, you've got to get this thing. And the day he got it, I said, okay, now can I borrow it? And I took it and I used it for a few days. And all my fears came true, in that I fell in love with it. And I knew that it was the key to success for everything that I was looking to do. And I knew that it wasn't, and this was what set me out on the journey. I knew that it wasn't just going to be for athletes, because my motivation for opening Recover was, as I said, I might do jiu-jitsu 3, 4, 5 days a week, but I can grind my way through jiu-jitsu. I can get through it and still feel decent about my day. But when I come home at night, if I'm exhausted, if I'm preoccupied, if I'm not present, I don't want to grind my way through my time with my children or with my wife. And I often say, and I've said this on multiple different podcasts, there's the difference between walking through the door and showing up. And I didn't want to just walk through the door with most of those things. I wanted to show up every single time. And then once I used it and I felt that balance, and and you guys know because you've used it, but when I say balance, it's one of those things that you can't really understand until you've done NuCalm. And I don't know if it's because, at least I can't speak for other people, haven't truly experienced what balance feels like before, but the sense of being present, all the internal dialogue just gone, and just energy without being jittery, calm without being tired. It was just the full package. So I knew that because I was fortunate enough to just hear about it, that if I'm bringing this to market first in New York City, good things are coming my way. I knew that for sure.
Awesome.
Now, did you want me to expand on how I marketed it, or?
Any information you want to provide, because I think it's fantastic. And I know we're going to continue to dive deeper into what it is, but I know when I asked you, I'm like, okay, so I have this thing, like, what is it going to do for me? And then once I did it and I experienced it, and it wasn't even when I used it that when I was finished, like I felt this sense of like balance. I almost kind of felt like my anxiety level did go down. And then I chalked it off to the first time I used it to, well, maybe it's because I actually took some time for myself. But like I said, I woke up or got up. I don't know if I was asleep. I don't know what happened. I was listening to this like soothing music, and then all of a sudden it's like bling, and my session was over and I got up. But it wasn't even, I felt really good the rest of that day. But it was when I woke up the next day, I felt super energized. And so I again, I want to know more about why this works, because it does work. And to your point, until you do it, you don't really understand it. But if you're gonna have this NuCalm, like how do you market it? And what have you found to be like? Do people come and just do one session? Do you see people coming back every day? Because I have one and I want to do it every day. But what's the deal in your facility, and how does that work?
So I learned really early on that people don't geek out on the science as much as I do. So I used to go really heavy in the paint with all the neuroscience, and there's some people that really resonate with that. But I found that the more we focus on the who, when, and why versus the what, the more people subscribe to whatever you're telling them about. Now with NuCalm, there are little nuggets that I would throw in there. You say 2 to 3 hours of sleep in 30 minutes. I don't care who you are, what you do, what you need to do, but you're going to start listening at that point. But it really came down to just painting the portrait of what do you do in life? What do you want to do? And it doesn't mean that you have to be an athlete or a C-level executive or married with children. If you just want to be present in your own company and not have that internal noise in your head all the time, that's always the way that we framed it. Now, I just want to touch on something real quick that you said as far as the circumstantial nature or what you thought it might be. And I've used NuCalm for years and years now. And about a month ago, I kind of fell off the wagon. I just started getting really busy with some work projects, and I wasn't NuCalming. And I was logging 12, 13, 14, 15-hour days to the point where I was fried. And I remember thinking, I'm talking to people about stress management and living a better life, but as soon as I step away from the computer, like I'm inundated with stress. Like something's got to give. And I really considered, like, I can't do this anymore. I can't, tell less than truths to people, because if I'm trying to present myself as a representative, I need to walk the walk. And then I said, you know what? Then I just need to make the time. And I opened with that earlier. I don't have the time, but I stopped making it. And I just remember being so frazzled. I said, one of two things is going to happen. This is going to pass the Pepsi challenge right now because I'm at my breaking point, or I'll know that I need to go do something else. And I did it. And I know what NuCalm feels like. I mean, I can't even count how many times I've done it. And I got up after that first session just in a different place. I said, it was just a good reminder of how important it is to create that balance. And then I made a commitment to myself to get back to what I always did, which is do it at least 4 days a week, if not 5. And since then, it doesn't mean that I don't have moments where I'm not a little preoccupied because I've got a deadline coming up, but it's about not letting that take control of you, which it does not do anymore. And that was always the feeling that I wanted to avoid in anything. Definitely jiu-jitsu. If somebody's taking control of me and choking me, I hope NuCalm can help me with that someday, but I think I just need to learn some new defense mechanisms. But, it's just one of those things that, when I talked about stress isn't a feeling, it's a physiological response. It's hormones and neurotransmitters coursing through your blood, and you can't will yourself out of that. I can talk to myself and say, Aaron, you've got a great job, got a great house, got all these things, but that's not the way we're built. So the fact that I had this tool at my disposal to literally at the systemic level recreate that balance, so all those hormones and neurotransmitters aren't imbalanced and making me feel and function in a way I didn't want to, it just changed the game for me instantly. And I don't think that I will ever go back to skipping out on a NuCalm session from this day forward.
So that's awesome. That's awesome information, and thanks for sharing your experience. Because I mean, it's like what I said at the top of the show. Is just you get in there, and when you say you're in a different place when you come out of it, I mean, that's a great way to describe it. Because I try to tell people what I experience, and it's like you wake up and you feel refreshed, but to wake up and then you're actually feeling like you're in a different body, was what I felt. So to be in a different place was a great way to put it. So Jim, I want to pose this next question to you, because in sports, especially where athletes are spending $1 million on their body a year, between what they're doing for physical therapy, massage, all the great recovery tools, weighted blankets like we talked about, cooling blankets, blackout sheets and lights, and blue light, watching that. What makes NuCalm a unique tool to the recovery process? Because I mean, we mentioned some pretty big names here with Tony Robbins, and you have LeBron James, who's spending $1 million on his body, and Russell Wilson spending upwards of that amount. Talk about some high performers here in their fields. But what does NuCalm offer that's unique to what other recovery tools are saying that they do for you mentally and physically?
Simply put, there's nothing like NuCalm on the planet, period. When it comes to recovery, it's all about balancing the autonomic nervous system. So the body has a central nervous system and an autonomic nervous system. I suspect that in the NASM curriculum, people are being educated on the autonomic nervous system. But let's think through how this all works. The autonomic nervous system is comprised of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. Okay, we get that. The stress side and the rest side. It's a zero-sum game. You're either one, portion on the stress or on the rest. Most people have their foot on the accelerator and in sympathetic tone. But something that's really important for people to understand is that the autonomic nervous system governs human fear, stress, anxiety, and depression. That's where it all resides, in the amygdala and the HPA axis of the midbrain. So this is often referred to as a reptilian brain. That's the challenge. So when you think about an athlete in recovery, NuCalm is unique for several reasons. We can talk about the patent, we can talk about the research, we can talk about NASA and Harvard and scientists and all this stuff. The reality is it was developed by a neuroscientist, naturopath, quantum physicist to address trauma comorbid with addiction, which is the highest profile of anxiety on the planet. The reason that someone who's traumatized reaches for drugs and alcohol is that they're in such psychic pain, they can't figure out how to resolve this. And the brain knows, hey, if you have some alcohol, it's going to resolve all the psychic pain you're in. So that profile of humanity is what this technology was designed to help. Well, if it'll help the worst profile of anxiety on the planet, it's going to help the rest of us. So why is this important? Why would an athlete from the Chicago Blackhawks or the Golden State Warriors use NuCalm? Well, first of all, they're going to try it once, and if it doesn't work, they're not using it again, right? They know their body really well. They know their mind really well. Something works, they might habitualize it. If it doesn't, they're not going to. Well, we've had athletes use NuCalm daily, once, twice, 3 times a day for 11 years. Why is that? Okay, let's take a step back and think about how the body works and what we're trying to accomplish. The brain has 4 functions in the brainwave realm. You've got beta brainwave function, which starts at 12 hertz, moves up to 15 hertz. So this is all frequency, all right? And frequency manages the manifestation of the physical elements, meaning that when your brainwave function is operating at 15 hertz to 20 hertz, that's the focus zone. That might be through caffeine or through some exercise, but you're jacking up the frequency of your brainwave function. When you are in the stress response, your frequency of brainwave might be oscillating at 20, 25, 30, all the way up to 38 hertz. Really fast brainwave function. When your brainwave is at this function, it commensurate to a lot of activity, heart palpitations, shortness of breath, sense of time slows down, all the blood flow from your extremities goes through your visceral organs, and you mobilize to protect yourself. So that's the highest stress level. 12 hertz is beta kind of alert. Now, here's where it gets fun. Alpha brainwave function is 12 hertz to 8 hertz. So it's simply a slower brainwave form. It's synonymous with the first stage of sleep. It's also synonymous with being creative, in the zone, all right, being relaxed, and That's where transcendental meditation exists. So alpha brainwave function, people have heard about it. They may not really understand it. But when the brainwave function slows down, you're in that creative zone, okay? Then comes theta, T-H-E-T-A. Theta brainwave function is a little bit more important. Why? It's a slower brainwave form, 7 hertz to 4 hertz. So we're a little slower, and it's just above sleep. And then you have delta. Delta's deep sleep. NuCalm uses biochemistry and physics to basically suspend your brainwave function into theta. And this is the key. Theta is the healing zone for humans. Theta brainwave function, when your brain is oscillating between 4 hertz and 7 hertz, your body is doing 2 things that are functionally really good for health, resilience, and longevity. Number 1, your cells are doing their cellular maintenance and cleaning their toxins. Number 2, your cells are restoring and your energy source of ATP and mitochondria is being restored. Cell biology is all about communication. You have trillions of cells in your body. Each cell has a certain function and a job to do. When we don't get good sleep and we cascade through theta brainwave function, second stage of sleep, too quickly into delta, our body doesn't get to do their cellular maintenance, doesn't get to do their restoration. So that is the key for NuCalm. We are basically using biochemistry in the form of a biosignal processing disc that's applied to your left wrist. As Aaron alluded to, that activates the GABAergic system and slows down adrenaline. That simply is a catalyst to NuCalm to allow your body not to resist what we're doing through adrenaline. Then you have an eye mask, great. But the key here is $5+ million of patented physics, mathematics, and algorithms designed to pace your brainwave function in alpha and theta. And the more your body and mind is in theta, the more healing occurs. So how does this happen? How does me and having my brainwave function in theta equal healing? It's really simple. Oxygen. So when your brainwave function is in theta, what we're doing is we're slowing down your respiration. So Ken and Wendy, when you guys first tried NuCalm, you don't probably remember this, but at some point early on, your mind wandered. That's the nonlinear oscillating algorithm. It takes a lot of sophistication to trick the most sophisticated organ in the history of this planet, the human brain, okay? So it's designed to kind of tell your monkey mind to go on a liberated journey of this nonlinear thinking. But at some point, really about 10 minutes into the experience, you had a separation of your body and your mind where your body began to feel heavy and your respiration slowed down. This is the key. When your brainwave function is in theta, we are synchronizing your heart with your lungs so that you can create the most volumetric diaphragmatic breathing that your body can absorb, which happens to be 1 breath every 10 seconds, 6 breaths a minute. So when this happens, cortisol's gone, adrenaline is gone, respiration is optimal, and you are getting oxygen-rich red blood cells pumped from your toes to your prefrontal cortex. That is the key. So an athlete, there's not an athlete I've ever met who's a monk, okay? Doesn't work together. There's no comorbidity. Monk athletes doesn't work. There's not an athlete that I haven't met who doesn't have bruises, contusions, hematomas, concussive history, whatever. So when you get into NuCalm and you just worked out and you're filled with lactic acid and inflammation, when your brainwave function is in theta, and for as long as you're in there, 20, 30, 40 minutes, the more theta, the better. You get up, and all we've done is flushed out all the lactic acid in your body and reduce the inflammation simply by pushing oxygen-rich red blood cells through the entire organism. So physically, when an athlete gets up, they feel physically recovered. They feel more grounded to the earth. Their shoulders feel lower. They feel loose like Gumby, okay? This is a manifestation of simply suspending you in the healing zone. But really the key for all of these competitive athletes that are winners is they get rid of the garbage that's between their ears. Okay, so say you're a hockey goalie and you give up a game-winning goal and it's the conference semifinals and now you have to play a game 7. You've let yourself down, you've let your teammates down. You think that you just clean the slate that night and go to sleep and the next day you wake up and everything's good? No. You perseverate over this stuff all the time. It changes your behavior. It creates insecurity, confusion, sleep deprivation. There's all these myriad of cascading events that happen mentally when we mess up and we're plagued by it. NuCalm cleans the slate. The trainer for the Chicago Blackhawks, Mike Gaske, who's been with them for 35 years, said 2 things that were really incredible. And this is after crediting the 2013 to 2015 Stanley Cups to NuCalm. Okay, that's a big endorsement on record. He said, number one, we want our players to play intense, not tense. That's a big deal. Number two, NuCalm cleans the slate. You know, you say, hey, take it one game at a time, one day at a time. Good luck. If you're not a skilled meditator or you understand mindfulness, you can't do that. Just because you say you're going to do it doesn't mean it happens. Well, NuCalm allows you to do it. So NuCalm is exceptionally unique. It is a tool. It is not the be-all, end-all. It's not the cure for everything. It's a tool that balances your autonomic nervous system. But in that statement, this is a huge statement, it manages human fear, stress, anxiety, and depression. So by addition, by subtraction, when we resolve and create balance in the autonomic nervous system, you are not sabotaged by fear, stress, anxiety, and depression. So, Ken, when you got up and you did NuCalm in New York and you'd been traveling, you felt new. Yeah, you felt new. Why? Because by using biochemistry and physics and flushing your brain filled with oxygen, we created new oxygen flow in the prefrontal and frontal cortex. That's your executive functioning, your personality, your character, your logic, your left brain thinking. Guess what? Your body could not sabotage you and engage in, you know, stress, fear, anxiety, and depression. That's the key, and that's the whole outcome physiologically that you want from mindfulness. It's not the practice of meditation. It's the physiological benefit of oxygenating key areas of your brain where your thinking occurs.
Right. No, that's awesome. And I did not know that about the Chicago Blackhawks. So, you know, and one of the things that, you know, Wendy and I discussed in previous episodes, you know, when we did compression boots, you know, especially with, you know, how teams have incorporated products like Normatec, and as well as, you know, percussion with you know, Hyperice being one of the major supporters for the NBA, golf, and, you know, NFL. But when we talked about, you know, and you'll have to fill in the blanks if I miss anything, Wendy, but when we talk about like sports teams and how there's, you know, there's the strength conditioning room and then there's the athletic training room, but a lot of these professional sports, you know, the big four are starting to incorporate things like a recovery room as well. So, you know, they'll have the recovery boots, they'll have percussion, they'll have vibration and heat. Just to share a little bit about, you know, you had that example with Chicago, but what other teams or organizations in sports have you seen NuCalm actually use it as part of, let's say, it's more than just, okay, you don't sleep well on the road, but this is a part of our recovery programming?
It's not even that per se. We work with 49 professional sports teams. We work with auto racing. We work with every sport on the planet. Every team has its own ecosystem. Every team has its own protocol. Some teams will build out a recovery room. They'll have 10 large massage beds in there and they'll have a recovery room. But most players, because of their schedule, because of travel, because of the, you know, need to be practicing 2 a days, whatever it is, your nap time, most players will purchase NuCalm individually or the team will purchase it for them. This is a tool that really comes in a knapsack. So they'll use it after the game. So say they play and the game ends at 10 o'clock, they shower, they do the media, then they get on their flight. They'll use it on the flight. They'll use it to come down instead of, you know, having to drink alcohol or do whatever to just stop your racing mind. But it's really to each his own. Most of the players will have their own NuCalm system and use it in the comfort of their hotel room or their home. And, you know, the protocols are pretty straightforward. As Aaron alluded to, 20 minutes of NuCalm is equivalent to 2 hours of restorative sleep. That had nothing to do with our research. That was research done by Chung Kang Peng and Norton Huang from NASA and Harvard. These are two scientists we used for 4.5 years to get the only patent in the world for lowering stress and improving sleep quality without drugs. That's a big deal. It took us a lot of work. We are a hardcore neuroscience company. We're beginning our 20th year on this planet, and we've invested $25 million in this technology. Okay, so this is not gimmick. This isn't, hey, let's do an app. Hey, binaural beat sounds cool. Let's bring an audio file in here and create an app. No, this is hardcore neuroscience to help define, refine, and deal with trauma. Okay, that's what this is about. So in sports, it's really to each its own how you want to incorporate it. Each team's been different. Sometimes it's the leaders and the captains of the team that have adopted NuCalm and said, hey, we can do this. Or in the example of hockey, it was interesting. the players, they see everything. They get every type of technology known to mankind. It comes through their door, through their trainer, through their medical support. Said, here, try this, try that. It wasn't until the Sochi Winter Olympics that the hockey players who had NuCalm flew several time zones. Russia alone has 12 time zones. They got there, they didn't have jet lag. And I remember they called Mike and said, hey, none of us have jet lag. This is unbelievable. That kind of was a cathartic moment for them to really understand and begin to habitualize NuCalm on a daily basis. But it's really straightforward. In the morning, most of our professional athletes will do NuCalm in the morning after they wake up. Why? Because you can't make up sleep debt. So say you have circadian rhythm disruption and jet lag because you travel to the West Coast for a long trip, whatever. Your body can't make that up, but biochemistry and physics can. So NuCalm does not supplant sleep, and we would never say, hey, sleep less and use NuCalm, but it augments and makes up for the sleep debt that you incurred. So in the morning, they'll do NuCalm. Then they'll go do their workout, their training, their stretching, whatever it is. And then after they perform, when they're filled with cortisol and their mind is racing and they're like, hey, I made a mistake here, whatever it is, then they do NuCalm. So it's a 1 or 2 time a day type of activity. They won't do it anywhere between an hour before they perform because they feel too relaxed, right? They still want to have that adrenaline backed up. So that's kind of the path that they use NuCalm in. The same holds true for the military. So we work with the active military. We work with Border Patrol. We work with all of these, we work with the FBI. Hello, they're under a lot of stress right now. Hello. So guess what? They go do their 24, 48-hour shifts, and then they'll NuCalm for hours. There's one gentleman, I just got an email a couple months ago. He NuCalm for 5 hours and 14 minutes. Now that's a personal record. I've not seen that happen before. The longest prior was 4 hours and 14 minutes, which was a woman with stage 4 metastatic brain cancer. So they're pushing really hard, and their body simply needed to restore. You guys, when you tried it, were in for 20 or 30 minutes. I bet you did the recharge 20-minute track because you think you don't have enough time in the day to take care of yourselves. Shame on both of you. If you get NuCalm, please take care of yourself. Recharge is built for humanity, right? Because humans think we're too busy. I don't have 1/72nd of the day to take care of myself. Are you crazy? So when we would say, hey, do you have 30 minutes? People would look at us like, I don't have 30 minutes. It would create stress. Yeah. Then we said, okay, we'll build a 20-minute power nap. The 20-minute recharge is built literally for when you absolutely don't have time, but it's not really built. It's a concentrated version. It's a shortcut. So for the two of you, when you're using NuCalm, simply submit to it. Give yourself 30, 40 minutes. Your brain and your body knows how much restoration it needs. You're not going to be in there for 40 minutes, 50 minutes. I typically do the rescue 70-minute track or the rescue 120-minute track. I assure you, I've never been in for 70 minutes or 120 minutes. I get in there, and when you're done, you just kind of pop to like that little button on a turkey, and you're like, okay, I'm done. I am done. My body's had enough restoration. Okay. Now, let me allude to something else that you guys brought up. You got into NuCalm. Both of you were exhausted. I don't know how old you are, but the first time we NuCalm, we're resolving a lifetime of stress. This isn't magic or a miracle. It's neuroscience. It takes time. So the first time you did it, you're like, what the hell? You lost sense of time and space. When you're in theta brainwave function, there's something that's called hypnagogic dissociation. Think about this. Your mind is constantly managing you. Your mind's constantly using cortisol as a tool to keep you awake, alert, active, and functioning on your to-do list. When you liberate that mind, we have to separate your monkey mind from dominating your body. That separation, where your brainwave is in theta, is critical to the healing process. So it has to be that way, or else you'll never get into the healing zone. So when you get in there, there's something called hypnagogic dissociation. It happens around the 20-minute mark of NuCalm. You will never know how long you were in NuCalm, ever. It's a physiological impossibility. That'll happen true every time. And here's what's cool. The two of you are high performers. The two of you have a lot going on. The two of you probably take care of everybody else first. Well, NuCalm is a tool that's going to allow you to take care of the fundamental you first. The more you use it, the more cumulative benefit it has. Within 2 or 3 uses, you're going to notice some really cool things happen. Number one, I think the easiest thing to notice is that things that normally would agitate you, create impatience, or just kind of take you off, like trigger you, won't trigger you. That's the accumulation of creating oxygen-rich red blood to the key areas of your prefrontal and frontal cortex. Remember this, the folks of NASM, the reptilian brain, fear, stress, anxiety, depression, and worry, is 40 million years evolved. Think about this. Think about what you've learned in the last year as a human. That's 1 year of learning. Think about what the brain has learned in 40 million years. It is a really intricate, complicated network, okay? That is 40 million years old. But human evolution from primates and the executive functioning and character and personality of your thinking is frontal cortex and prefrontal cortex. That's 4 million years evolved. So we are fighting every day a 36 million year head start of this trigger and sabotage of the autonomic nervous system, basically creating obstacles to our own success. When you balance the autonomic nervous system, you liberate yourself from what I call the itty bitty shitty committee. You know, the committee that lies behind your eyes and tells you you're no good at this, you don't understand this, they're not going to like you, you're not going to fit in. All that's never had anything good to say. The itty bitty shitty committee has never been a cheerleading group of support, right? When you resolve that itty bitty shitty committee and you put it in the corner, it liberates you to be the best you. I tell people all the time, I say, just because I NuCalm doesn't make me a professional athlete. Hello, you need talent, right? Just because I NuCalm doesn't make me a pilot. It just makes me a better me, whether that's a dad or a business person or a friend. That's what it allows me to do. Why? Because as Aaron alluded to earlier, when you're present in the moment without judgment, when you're patient, when you listen and you can observe and be present in your life as opposed to having 6 or 7 conversations going on behind your eyes, that's the beauty of balancing the autonomic nervous system.
Wow. I could sit here and listen to you talk all day, Jim. Like, it's, to me, this so fascinating. But I actually have a few questions. I know we've got to wrap it up here soon, but what would you say, and again, I'm not trying to take any shortcuts, but I know, you know, some people, and Aaron even alluded to this multiple times, that you have to make time for NuCalm. So what would you say is the minimum dose or amount of time in order to receive benefits? And then, you know, does your body does it then crave it, or do you start to get, quote, used to it?
Your body will not crave it, but your significant other or spouse will know when you call.
I will say that is definitely a true fact.
I'm sure wow, Aaron, you could really use a NuCalm right now.
Yeah. Any help I can get, I guess.
There's no physical craving. The GABAergic system is the body's inhibitory neurotransmitter system. You'll know when you need NuCalm because you'll be sabotaged by stress. You'll feel the cortisol in your stomach. That intuition, a lot of times we override it. We don't want to believe our intuition, but it's right like 99% of the time. So as you're going through life, you'll just start noticing that you're making disappointing decisions. That's when you'll know you need NuCalm. The minimum time to receive maximum benefit is 20 minutes. Everything we do is meticulously designed. But think through this. We cannot just take your brainwave function from beta or high beta, really activated caffeine, down into theta. We can't just take it there. Okay, your central nervous system will not allow that. So we have to step you in to this. So the brainwave pacing, like a NASCAR pace car, happens over those first course of 8 to 10 minutes, where we take you down into theta and up, down into theta and up, down into theta and up. We have to communicate to your central nervous system that what we're about to do is safe for you so that you can actually enjoy the experience. That's why in the first few minutes of NuCalm, every single time, your mind's just wandering, okay? So 20 minutes is the minimum. What we've seen, and millions of people have used this, okay? And we have thousands of people that use it every day. We can see all the metadata. What we see is about 32 to 38 minutes is the natural endpoint for humans on a daily basis if you're using this on a regular basis. What's cool is that your body and brain knows how much restoration you need. So sometimes if, say, I fly to Russia and I land, I might get to my hotel and I NuCalm for 57 minutes. That's 20 minutes longer than I normally would because my brain needed, you know, the biorhythm reset. So NuCalm kind of dictates what and how you need it. Wendy, I would love to be a NuCalm 20 hours a day, okay? Understanding physiology, understanding the acceleration of disease, and understanding cellular breakdown. Every minute I'm in NuCalm, I know this. My body is restoring and I am healing. Every minute I'm not in NuCalm, cortisol is breaking down my cellular structure. I'm not healing. Okay, so I want to be a NuCalm a lot more, but you can't. Your brain just says, hey, I've had enough, I'm bored. You almost get agitated. So I do NuCalm on a daily basis, and I do NuCalm between 12 and 4 in the afternoon when your biorhythm naturally wants to take a break. And most of us high-performing type A personalities reach for espresso, Monster Energy. We go in the wrong direction. That's not what your body needs. Listen to your body. Your body actually needs a 20 to 30-minute NuCalm restoration. And if you give yourself 30 minutes, it will return 10 to 12 hours of exceptionally clear-headed, high performance mentally and physically. It's a great investment because it returns a great return for you.
Awesome. Well, one question actually two questions I have for you, Aaron, or Jim, either one. But because Aaron, you said this earlier, that's what kind of triggered this. I know when NuCalm, I first heard about it, I looked at the price tag and was like, well, I'll have to try to find someone that has one so I can do what you did and borrow one. However, now I own my own. And it's not because all of a sudden I got rich. It was all of a sudden you guys kind of changed the way that NuCalm is offered for the general public, as well as anyone that wanted to get their hands on it. So can you kind of tell us like where it was, like, financially, like how much, where we were on a price tag, and then where you are today to make it reasonable for any of our listeners? And then kind of how do people join the NuCalm family?
Okay, so NuCalm started out 20 years of invention, okay? 20 years. That's a lot. I can't imagine anybody taking 20 years of their life to figure this out. And it was all because Dr. Holloway tried to create a systematic approach to managing your brainwave function, understanding the adrenals, understanding biochemistry, and it used to be a very complicated 4-component system. It used to be a Class 3 highly regulated FDA medical device. Health Canada, approved by the United States military, NSF certified for sport. We had to do all the regulatory. And in September of 2010, we launched NuCalm for $5,995 per system to the medical community. And we had thousands of doctors buy NuCalm and use it for surgical procedures. We've done over 1,600,000 surgical procedures with NuCalm. Why? You relax the brain and the body, and you allow healing to happen and all that good stuff. In April of 2016, knowing that we'll never get to the place where it's really important for us to get this into the hands of as many humans as possible, because stress impacts all of us. Stress and poor sleep impacts all of us, and it changes the landscape of life from disease state to longevity to good quality living. We knew we couldn't do this at a multi-$1,000 price point. So in April of 2016, we began a quest. 4.5 years later, in October of 2020, we launched a over-the-counter version of NuCalm that's no longer 4 components in a Class 3 medical device, but it's 3 components. It's much more portable and significantly more affordable. So we dropped the price from $4,695 to $39.99. So for those of you mathematicians out there, that is a 99.15% price drop. This is significant. Now we're in a position as a company where we could absorb this hit, because now we need to bring and welcome 117 new NuCalm customers for every one customer we used to welcome, right? We've been at this a long time. The key here is get access to NuCalm, make it a part of your life, because if you don't make it a part of your life, I guarantee you stress, fear, anxiety, and depression will dominate your landscape, especially what we saw in 2020. If you had a proclivity to be depressed, you're more depressed. If you had a proclivity to be anxious, you're more anxious. So then you're self-medicating. It's a cascading of errors. Your to-do list is not that important. It's certainly not more important than your health. And this whole concept of mindfulness, we're missing the mark. It's too ethereal. Mindfulness is about oxygenating key areas of your brain and balancing the autonomic nervous system to put stress in the corner and allow you to live a good life. So for $39.99 is the entry point for joining the NuCalm family. It's a monthly subscription. There's no obligation. We're about stress management and making life better for you. We're not about creating stress. You can do 3 choices on the monthly. It's NuCalm 10, 20, or 30. The number denotes how many NuCalm experiences you'll have that month. We definitely recommend people use NuCalm at least 3 times a week, or you can do an annual subscription. So we have successfully moved from a complicated FDA Class 3 neuroscience medical device to a portable, easy-to-use technology for the masses. We're thrilled. We're exhausted. We had a great 2020. I think being isolated allowed our team to really focus and get it done. We've been working on it for 4.5 years. It's done. It's here. and we're welcoming thousands of new customers a week, which is incredible because I used to know almost every customer we had. I would travel all over the world. I'd lecture. We'd have demos. You know, we did the Consumer Electronics Show. We NuCalmed 1,847 people in 3 days in Las Vegas at the busiest trade show in the world, and we won Best of CES. And there was people standing in a queue for an hour to 2 hours from the time we opened, and simply because the big marquee said, get 2 hours restored to sleep in 20 minutes. So people didn't understand anything we were doing. They just said, I need that. So we are here to help. We are here to take care of you. We're here to help reverse the cycle we all live in, which is high stress, poor sleep, high stress, poor sleep, high stress, poor sleep. And with no effort, we work with monks. Yeah. You don't need to become a monk. You use biochemistry and physics. You lie down, you put you in a monk-like state. You get up, you feel amazing. I'm blessed and Aaron's blessed. We live and think like monks, and we're capitalists. It's a brilliant model.
Nice.
Well, I'll tell you, because of your price point drop, I am a customer, and I will tell everyone on this podcast, you really need to spend the money on yourself because it's definitely worth it. And Jim and Aaron both explained kind of the science behind it, but I will tell you, for someone that didn't know the science, but really is, you know, I do live a stressful life. I've got multiple jobs. I've got a 4-year-old. I have a husband. Sometimes my husband's like my 4-year-old. So I'm telling you, NuCalming does work. And I'm so excited to have you both here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And one thing I'd like to add in quickly, as far as really trying to put things in perspective. When we opened Recover, there was a moment where I was apprehensive that people might view our services as being selfish for taking the time for themselves. And we've articulated how difficult that is for people, to which I reply, you should be selfish. You should be selfish, because once we start getting back on planes more frequently, when you look up, you'll see right where the oxygen masks come out, it says on every single one, if you're traveling with a child, put yours on first. And the reason is as we've said earlier in this episode, if you can't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of other people. And I opened earlier with the notion of, or actually, I like this one better. There's a difference between being busy and being productive. So independent of whether you can get the job done, at what expense? Are you living up to your potential? Are you enjoying it as much as you can? But really, when it comes down to it, there will come a point where won't becomes a can't, because it is a physiological manifestation, and it will erode at your ability to do whatever it is you like doing, need to do, want to do, because the tools aren't in play. So give yourself the tools back, be selfish for 30 minutes so that you can be the most giving, most present person possible for the rest of the day.
Awesome. No, those are great closing words there, Aaron. And one of my mentors told me along the same lines as what you said. If you don't take care of number one, you can't take care of number two. So however you want to take that, the words are there. So thank you, Jim. Thank you, Aaron and Wendy. Always great to see you. Thanks for the information. The website for NuCalm is going to be on our show notes. So those of you that are listening, just go to the show notes and you'll be able to see and get more information. But as Wendy and I have been talking about, we know, we've felt it, we've realized the benefits of this product, and obviously with the knowledge and the understanding that both Jim and Aaron shared with us today, now you have a better insight of the science behind what makes you feel so good and helps you become, as you're saying, both of you, it helps you be a better human and more productive and not just busy. So again, thank you everybody for listening to us here on the Random Fit Show. If you like what you're hearing and like what you're listening to, like, follow, share, download, and just tell your friends about it, because we're going to have more information like this in the future. So thanks everybody for being here today, and be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.